Deadpool Wolverine is a fantastic movie, and it's nostalgia bait and cameos as well as action sequences and hilarious comedy done right. Honestly, it's a movie that's essentially too good for the current MCU. This movie has a wonderful setup, wonderful execution, and just a amazing cast of characters that all act in a very profound and amazing way. Without revealing too much about everything that goes on within the movie, I can honestly say it's obvious. It's definitely one of the best movies I've seen all year. It is fun. It's funny. It's interesting. It's just genuinely hilarious and honestly a nice, good, fun time to have in the movies. Considering the multitude of different things that try to tackle the multiverse or essentially handle a multitude of or a bunch of different characters within the current scope of comic book movies or superhero movies in general, this one I can honestly say actually tackles and handles all of that subject matter in a very well and profound manner. It's not the most well thought of plot or the most ingenious concept, but it is still a nice one, done with characters that essentially you can relate to and reminisce with without actually breaking the mold or um, taking away a lot from the character's actual uh, self, if you will. The plot in itself is, like I said, very simplistic but interesting one. Deadpool is tasked with finding out that essentially his universe is in danger and he needs someone to help out, and that someone needs to be Wolverine, as he is an anchor for Deadpool's universe. So trying to find Wolverine to then help anchor his universe so that his loved ones don't disappear comes with the same notion of him essentially needing to befriend Wolverine in order to willingly want to help him. Now, one of the dope things that they do is that by not besmirching the legacy of Logan, they actually interact and bring in the TVA, which then allows for an alternate Wolverine, but is still played by Hugh Jackman, that essentially has the same core concepts of Wolverine that everyone can relate to and understand with. That way, you don't really deviate too much away from the character. But again, it doesn't shit on the legacy of Logan. I was about to say the legacy of Logan, and this is all masterfully done by then initiating essentially pseudo buddy cop situation where you have two people who are together, and Deadpool being Deadpool and Wolverine being Wolverine. In this buddy cop situation, they're forced to work together to essentially have Deadpool reaching the conclusion where he's able to save his loved ones, and Wolverine reach a conclusion where he's actually able to redeem himself, because this Wolverine actually happened to not be a hero per se, but more so one that is considered the worst of all Wolverines. So again, not really taking away a lot from the character as far as concepts or anything like that go, but it just masterfully handles everyone. And honestly, it was a very fun and interesting movie. Now, having said that, there is a lot of this movie that I genuinely enjoyed. It was just good. It was funny. It was fantastic. It was masterfully done. But there are three major problems that this movie has that, honestly, if not addressed, this movie could damn near seem like a perfect movie. But they are glaring issues that essentially I feel have the same tendencies as what was the show? Naruto. It's the same tendencies that I have with the show Naruto, where upon reflection, the more I think about it, the worse things get. These three things are very, very common. No, not common. Wrong words. These three things essentially are a glaring issue for me, but at the same time, if you ignore these three things, then this movie is damn near perfect. But at the same time, these three things are a problem, but it doesn't mean that I don't still enjoy the movie, because again, this is actually well written, unlike Naruto. But I should state exactly what it is. These three things are the beginning of this movie, the villain, and the choreography. I'll say the least one first, the not as bad one first. The choreography in this movie. The choreography in this movie kind of wanes like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's incredibly good, and other times it kind of falters. The issue with that is that essentially from the jump you are put on the perspective that this movie's choreography is going to be fantastic. This is kind of led into essentially a fight sequence with Deadpool where he's actually when they play Instinct's Bye Bye Bye. And from that moment, you're kind of put on this spectrum that this is the bare minimum of what we should expect from the action, as well as as well as it should only increase from hereafter, seeing as how this is the opening sequence. But as the movie goes on, you have multiple fight scenes with characters who essentially, cameo-wise or otherwise, are showcased within Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds being Deadpool, where you can tell shit starts slowing down because these people are fucking old. It's so ridiculous. It's because it's such a clear cutaway between the CGI of the characters as well as the humans doing their own stuff and stunts, but it just really takes away a lot from the action when you're looking at it because it's like, wow, they were moving fast a minute ago, now they're slow as hell. Why is that? And it's like, well, they're getting on in age, and honestly, I feel that was a huge negative for the movie. Now, again, it doesn't make it unwatchable, but it is something that just it kind of sticks out if you're paying attention to it. And with me, because of how the action itself flowed, it just certain parts where it was like it was very fast paced and very and right there with you, and I just genuinely enjoyed it. And then it just slowed down to a crawl, so these people could like do these ridiculously readable choreographed moves that just kind of slowed up and dulled everything. Some of the stuff was essentially made up by the quips or just the general theme or concept that was going on. But then again, you just had too many moments where everything slowed down. Now, then you have the outrageous finale of a fight scene, which honestly had the same issue that Guardians of the Galaxy had, where you just kind of had too much going on the screen, so there wasn't really a lot to appreciate. And for it being the final fight scene, you kind of shouldn't have did that. It honestly it was the concept itself is cool without giving away too much. The concept of what the final fight was cool, but you just typically had too much going on to where it was just hard to pay attention on who's where and doing what. And it was just like a visual clusterfuck. But at the same time, it was still aesthetically pleasing, but it just could have been handled better. And I wish it was. And that's the first part. Now, the second issue with this movie is ironically the first part. The beginning of this movie kind of sets a precedent about Deadpool that does not make any sense. And the problem is that this essentially sets a reasoning behind his character for this movie that is no way present within the first two Deadpool movies, which you cannot say this movie is not correlated to because it's literally coming off the heels from Deadpool 2. So this isn't an alternate Deadpool. This is Deadpool from Deadpool 2. And they start the movie off by essentially having him cross over using a little time slider that he got from Cable to cross over to the MCU to try and join the Avengers. They make him want to join the Avengers because he wants to matter. But again, this goes against how Deadpool was within the first two movies, because then they make it seem as if he can't find a place to fit in anywhere. Now, this is necessary to set up so much stuff that happens within this movie, but it's such an outrageous deconstruction of a character that to me it makes looking at the first two Deadpool movies kind of embarrassing because there's just so much that it just gets wrong on a basic level, where you have the fact that he couldn't join the X-Men being criticized, while the first movie was literally Colossus trying to drag him to join the X-Men, and then the second movie, him actually living in the goddamn X-Men house, but just not wanting to do anything because he was depressed about Vanessa dying. And then you have him being drugged out into playing as an X-Men trainee, and honestly him not wanting to do that but essentially saving the day as a byproduct of that. Having this character who essentially has always showcased that he is someone that's cool with working on his own, as well as is perfectly fine and capable of handling and understanding his lot in life, makes no sense. You have him being interviewed by Happy of all people. And I get the cameo, I get people like seeing Jon Favreau, ha ha ha. Yeah, cool. But this is the same situation like with Spider-Man, where it doesn't make any sense for this character to have this much importance over people who are better than him, that actually have proven themselves as heroes, to be questioned on their um, ability to be a hero by such a character. Now they do a very funny Iron Man joke within this segment, but again, it's still something to where Deadpool legitimately was willing and okay with dying to save a kid whom, if he helped, actually change drastically the future. Yet, Jon Favreau was saying that he shouldn't be a hero because he actually wants to be a hero. He has abilities and is willing to do the work to actually want to become a hero. And again, this contradicts so much within the MCU, not as a way of just disavowing Deadpool, but this is the MCU that has Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Captain America as fucking Avengers. And in the MCU currently, there's no one on the goddamn roster that actually matters. But Deadpool is a dude that can literally regenerate. He has all the abilities, if not more, so the better abilities of Hawkeye and Black Widow. And yet, for some reason, he's turned down because he wants the job. How many? Let us not forget that the very first Avengers movies, these people didn't even want to work together until someone died. So why is it that Happy gets the final say in whether or not Deadpool is even worthy to be an Avenger? And let alone would this concept actually affect Deadpool to the point where he would ruin his relationship with the woman that was willing to stick by him when she found out he had cancer? Let alone a woman that he was willing to change and alter time in order to save. But this is what ruins their relationship. Like I said, if you ignore this concept, if you ignore how unbelievably ridiculous this part is for Deadpool, then the movie's fantastic. I can ignore it so I can enjoy the movie. And then, like, you're probably wondering, like, as much of a stickler as I am for the shit, why would I be so willing to ignore this in order to sit and enjoy this movie? I'll tell you, it's not one of the reasons I'm buying this movie is because of a cameo that pops up later in the movie, and I'm not going to spoil what it is. That's not it. That's actually a reason why I'm buying it. But the fact that I'm not that bothered by this issue, and it's like, again, the more if I talk about it, I can get in deep. But it's like, I'm not bothered by it because of the fact that my favorite part in the movie is a part where Wolverine tears apart Deadpool. It is my literal favorite part. It's not an action scene. It's not a joke. It's a serious moment where Hugh Jackman acted his ass off. And I love this scene. And he just tears apart Deadpool. And it was so masterfully done that I remember sitting in the theater just going, damn. Now, I loved it. I loved everything about that scene. I loved how personal it was. I loved how it was a wonderful attack. I loved that it was a moment that made Deadpool shut up. And then it led into another fight, which is actually a good choreographed fight scene. And because of that, I have to say, I can accept what this movie set up to knock that down. That doesn't, I don't appreciate it, nor do I condone it, but it's something that I did genuinely enjoy because of the direction that the movie went in. So that's my biasy towards that. So you can understand, it's like, oh, what are you doing? And it's like, yeah, something good came out of it. I'm okay with this. I don't give, like, there's nothing to really condone or say in terms of what the MCU was going to be based off of this movie. So don't even think that far ahead about anything, but just, bear with me on that. Now, the last and final thing about this movie that's a giant glaring issue, and it's honestly the worst aspect because it breaks apart all of it, is the villain. The major villain being played in this movie is essentially a retconned female twin of Charles Xavier. And that's it. That's it. And she's an omega level mutant with ridiculous abilities, and that's it. That's it. The problem with this character is that the movie has no idea how they want to handle her. At one point, she's complete and utter. She's a cold-hearted bitch, but she's really stout in how she's dealing with things. In another way, it seems as if she's gathering people for some reason, but they never really allude to. Then another reason, it just seems like, well, she's gathering people to keep her hold in the area that she's in, because apparently the chick's just living in that void place that was showcased in Loki. That again, in Loki, didn't they kind of state that one of the only people who can really survive there was Loki? Yet you had just a multitude of different people still living there. Again, it worked for the context and the jokes, but as in terms of the MCU making sense, it completely falls apart. Um, and then you have her specifying that Wolverine is special, but Deadpool's are a dime a dozen. Yet they never explain why Wolverine is special, nor do they go into why she feels a connection with Wolverine. And it just, and like her powers just kind of go out of the, like, go all over the place. At one point she's just kind of like just dismissive of the two, and then another time it's just like, I really want to kill you guys, and then it just like it jumps again to, all right, I'm an understanding person, I get why you're this way. Hell, even Wolverine explains, if Charles knew you were alive or he had a sister, you knew he would come and save you. Yet when they introduce the chick, she kind of states that she's killed Charleses that have been brought to this world before. So that doesn't make any sense. And then you have her helping Deadpool and Wolverine, and then she's kind of going against it and it's like, no, I want to destroy everything. She was just all over the place. And it was just so unbelievably jarring and ridiculous that it just kind of defeated the purpose of actually having her be a villain. And especially when you introduce the character of Paradox in the beginning, who is the reason that Deadpool was set on this mission in the first place to doing what he does. So it just kind of seemed like they just threw her in there because they didn't know what to do. But by doing so, you just really ruined a lot of the synergy that was brought in by Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman acting off of each other. It was a perfect character to understand and to dive deeper into the Wolverine that they presented with Hugh Jackman. Perfect for that. But aside from that, when they had her essentially kind of go good for the moment that she did do that, one of the moments she went good, you didn't need to involve her anymore, especially with the ending being the way that it is and the climax of the movie. You could have had it to where Paradox was the one who essentially associated all with all the other Deadpools rather than having her bring in the Deadpools. You could have had it to where he had his plan essentially of doing what he was doing with the machine was actually coming to play, and then Deadpool and Wolverine still needed to do what they did by the end of the movie. There was so much in an easier way of handling the situation rather than trying to make her this end all be all bad guy, where just kind of it just super fell apart because it was like, well, she was already all powerful in the first place. Why are you flip faulting on, like, they're just flip flopping around all over the place with how they wanted to handle her, and that I didn't appreciate. I felt as if the dialogue and the camaraderie and just the interactions between Deadpool, Wolverine, and all the other characters in the movie, fantastic. But just for some reason, you just fumbled the ball with the villain, and that just was odd. It's just very, very odd. And I did not appreciate it. It lets down a lot of the movie, especially when it's like, you don't need her to do this, but you're having her do this, and I don't get it. But it's just so not necessary. But that's it. That is literally it. Those are the only problems that I have with this movie. Aside from that, this movie is fantastic. I urge anyone and everyone to go see it. I wish I got the Deadpool cup. I got a Wolverine one. Sad. But it really, really is good. It honestly, it's a hell of a lot better. Well, far better done than a movie like No Way Home, which essentially to me is a 50-50 kind of movie. Um, but it handled nostalgia bait fantastically. It handled the I wasn't disappointed with how things were taken care of, considering the fact that this isn't one of the directors from the other two Deadpool movies, and then you're kind of dealing with Disney. It went out of it. It didn't go out of its way, but it did hold up very well. But again, if you're someone that's a stickler for the MCU, I am sorry to report you're gonna have way too many fucking questions and issues with this movie than anyone else. I promise you. Because it does so much stuff that breaks apart the typical norm or what it is that they set up as a as the rules within the MCU. Hell, by having Deadpool essentially interact with the TVA, you immediately kind of disprove what the time slider was that Cable was using, because the time slider literally had an effect of, if you go back in time, the future can be changed. While as with the TVA, it makes a variant, or with the MCU, you make a branch universe. You can't fix your timeline. You can only just create an alternate timeline, thus making the multiverse. You see, that's a glaring issue right there. But again, so, but like I said, still a good movie. So yeah, if despite what it is that I said that was a negative, don't think that everything that I said about it, the negative aspect, be the only thing that, like, if that hinders you from watching a movie, sorry. But I guarantee you, if you look at it, you will get over that, because the movie itself is actually really, really good. And that's all I got to say about that. So yeah, this is my review for the Deadpool Wolverine movie. I just wanted to let everybody know how I thought. That was it. Thank you for your time, and good night. Do I sound sick? I think my voice is like it's hoarse or something. Whatever. All right, yeah, that's it.